You are watching Access LaPorte County, Channel 97. Coming up next is January 21st, 2025 meeting of the Michigan City Board of Public Works and Safety. You can find more information for this meeting by visiting www.accesslaportecounty.org.
Good afternoon, Michigan City. This is Tuesday, January 21st, 2025. This is the Board of Public Works and Safety. I'll call it to order, and I'll start with the roll call. Mr. Simmons?
Present.
Ms. Tisdale?
Present.
Ms. Smith?
Present.
Ms. Moore?
Present.
Attorney LePage?
Here.
And Mr. York is here as well. Our first order of business today is approval of minutes from a regular hybrid Zoom meeting of January 6, 2025. Do we hear any motion or any comments on those minutes?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Call for the vote. Mr. Simmons?
Aye.
Ms. Tisdale?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Aye.
Ms. Moore?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Our next order of business is a contract. This is the second amendment to the 2024-2025 contract between the City of Michigan City and Local 228, Council 962, American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, ALF-CIO. Ms. LePage, will you tell us a little bit about this contract and the amendment?
Sure. So the city has a union contract with AFSCME, and this amendment would just allow the AFSCME employees that are subject to this union contract the mid-year bonus that's budgeted for 2025 in July of the $1,200. And the union's already approved the amendment, so we would just be asking for the board's approval.
Excellent. Any questions of Ms. Page from the board?
Motion to approve.
Let me call for a public comment. You're okay. Hold that. Any public comment on this item? Any public comment? Anything online? Now, I'll close public comment.
Motion to approve.
There a second? Okay. Hearing the support. Hearing the second, I'll call for the vote. Mr. Simmons?
Aye.
Ms. Tisdale?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Aye.
Ms. Moore?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Amber, thank you for putting that together for us and working with them. Next order of business is insurance renewal. General Insurance Services is requesting the approval of 2025-2026 self-fund workers' compensation program, buffer layer and excess layer renewal. How do you doing?
Evening, board. Matt Weber, General Insurance. As you mentioned, two components of the partially self-insured workers' compensation program, buffer layer and the excess layer. Two of four components of the program, city's loss fund being one, the TPA, the city contracts with to handle unjust claims being two, and then these two excess policies. The buffer layer actually renewed flat, which we got them to agree to terms of that last year at renewal, which was excellent. And the excess was able to offer another 2-year renewal, which is also positive for a very modest less than 2% increase. So very favorable overall, and just here tonight seeking formal approval.
Excellent. Any questions of Mr. Weber from the board? Amber, have you reviewed this contract?
Yes, we have, and myself and the city controller also met with GIS last week to go over it, and we're in support of it.
Excellent. Any questions of Mr. Weber from the board? Any questions? All right, I'll open up for public comment. Any public comment on this item? Any public comment on this item? Anything online? Okay, I'll close public comment. Thank you for being here, Mr. Weber. Do I hear a motion to approve? Is there a question? Sorry. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
I'll call for the vote. Mr. Simmons?
Aye.
Ms. Tisdale?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Aye.
Ms. Moore?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Thank you so much for being here. Charlie.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next order of business is a request for a road repair. Councilman Don Prespolinski is requesting to have a dip in the road at 124 Wilshire Ave repaired. Councilman?
Good afternoon, board members. City Councilman Don Perbolinski, 215 Gardena Street. And yes, the address is 124 Wilshire Ave. It's right in the middle of the street, and I'm gonna call it a large dip. And it's, I'm gonna say 10 feet wide, 8 feet long, and I think the total depth of the dip is probably about 8 to 10 inches by now. It's been there, pardon?
Said, whoa.
Yeah,
that's a dip.
and I know it's been there for a while.
Yeah.
I did talk to Sean Smith about a year ago, a couple of years ago, and he did come and put some blacktop in it to take out the severity of the impact, and that helped a little bit, but now it's getting to the point where, you know, I don't know if there's a water line under there or a sewer line that's starting to cave in, and that's causing this to get even worse. So it needs to be repaired this spring.
Okay, thank you.
Okay?
Any questions of Councilman? Any questions? Mr. Warner, Engineer Warner?
Tim Warner, city engineer. I spoke to John Gorsick at the sanitary district. He was gonna have his crews go out and take a look. There was a failing lateral there on Wilshire at one point. He wasn't sure at the time when I talked to him last week, whether it was the 124 Wilshire or somewhere else, but they're gonna do some camera runs up the sewer that's in the middle of Wilshire and see. It looks like, I mean, the way it's linear across, that it is some kind of lateral failure perhaps. There's been no report from any residents there that their laterals aren't working, but they'll check it out, and we'll try to get this taken care of, working with Sean and everything before, as soon as the plants open up with the asphalt in the spring.
Excellent. Any questions of Engineer Warner? Sounds like you guys are on it and getting prepared to start the exploration.
As soon as we can, yep.
Tim, could I ask a question? Would you like order of magnitude or order of time frame for this like exploration? How long do you think to explore?
The equipment, they were not really wanting to get down in the water and freezing today.
Sure.
Supposed to warm up by the end of this week, so they might get to it by the end of this week, but probably before the next meeting, we should have a response back from sanitary district, whether they found any lateral issues, sand in this main sewer coming out of the lateral, things like that.
Excellent.
Otherwise, it could just be a base failure that we need to have Sean work at getting taken care of in the spring.
My reason for asking that question is that we could have a report back at our next meeting. Maybe that's the motion we make, and so we can have a report back.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. I'll open up for any public comment. Any public comment on this item? Any public comment on this item? Anything online? Sounds like our city engineer is already on it and starting the process to explore how this is going to be fixed or what's going on there. Do I hear a motion to hold this over to our next meeting to get a report back from our city engineer?
Motion to table until February 3rd.
To your second?
Support.
Excellent. I'll call for the vote. Mr. Simmons?
Aye.
Ms. Tisdale?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Aye.
Ms. Moore?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Thank you. Don, don't go anywhere. Request to repair. The next order of business is a request to repair CSX. Councilman Don Prespolinski is requesting to have the board contact CSX for the following: to have the railroad crossing at Buffalo Street repaired due to them not completing the initial repairs and not putting in the rubber crossing pads. Second, request to have railroad ties cleaned up at Hoyt Street and Arthur Street and have railroad ballast cleaned up on Greenwood Avenue. Councilman?
Yeah, Councilman Don Prespolinski, 215 Gardena. And what this is, let's start with Buffalo Street. So if you go to the crossing from the north or coming from north to south, and you pull up on the crossing and you look to the left, you'll find what they call rubber crossing strips that, they're about 10 feet long, 8 feet long. There's a pile of them sitting there. Well, what the CSX did, and apparently they probably did it in the summer, is that they replaced the north rail, and then they took the rail and they threw it off to the side, and that's still sitting there. But these rubber crossing strips are supposed to be replaced, and where they go is if you have the rail, here's the rail. You have a rubber strip on this side, and you have a rubber strip on that side. And what that does is fill in the gap between the blacktop and the rail, so it makes it easier when it comes time to changing the rail. Instead of busting out a bunch of blacktop, all you do is you take these rubber strips out, and then they can take the spikes out, and they can take the rail out, and it comes out a lot more easier. So what the issue is, by not placing those back in there between the rail and the blacktop, now you have about a 5-inch gap on this side and a 5-inch gap on this side of the rail. And then where the splice bars are at, where you tie the rails together, you have about a 8-inch gap on this side and an 8-inch gap on that side. So anyone that could be walking across that crossing or riding your bike across that crossing, if they inadvertently got their wheels stuck in between the tie or the rail and the blacktop, they could have a safety issue there. Even if a train would be coming down the tracks or whatever, they could be, stuck in there. So to me, and I know Tim said that they're going to get that done when the CSX comes back in the summertime, but to me, that's more of a safety issue where the CSX should come back to town and get that done right now. I mean, all it takes is to put those rubber pads back in. It'd probably take them 4 or 5 hours to get that done, and then pick that rail up and get it out of there. So that's the main thrust and safety issue there. And then, of course, I put down here, the railroad ties along Arthur Street. So if you come off Wabash by Stadium Inn and you go to the right, you go down about 100 feet, you'll see 500 railroad ties sitting there, and they've been sitting there for probably 2 years now. Just another eyesore in the neighborhoods, trying to get it cleaned up so it looks nice. And, the other issue, not really an issue, but something that needs to be cleaned up, is over on Greenwood Ave. You have the Greenwood Ave crossing. Wherever the CSX goes, you always have a pile of slags laying around. This stuff, when they come to town, they do the work, somebody needs to go behind them, make sure the work is done properly. Just like this Woodland Ave crossing, when they say they get it done, I'm hoping the city engineer go out there and give it his blessing and say, yeah, it's done, so we don't have to call them back again in another year to do something else. So those are my 2 requests. Thank you.
Any questions on these items? Miss Engineer Warner, should we add this to our list of CSX things to hear back from, or how would you like to handle this?
Yeah, when I talked to the roadmaster about his schedule for Woodland Avenue crossing improvement, we'll bring this up and
Okay.
get that taken care of at the same time. And after I speak with them, if I ever hear from them again, I will let the board know.
Okay. 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 What's the pleasure of I'll open up for public comment. Any public comment on this item? Any public comment on this item?
Yeah, and I know the city engineer is trying to do his best to get these issues resolved. But if we don't hear back from the guy from the CSX, then let's get a hold of the US Senator's office, get them involved, and let's get this stuff fixed. Yeah, It's gotta be done. If the board wants to sit and wait and wait and wait and wait another year to get a railroad crossing fixed, then that'll be 2.5 years. To me, that's not a lot of, I guess, emphasis on trying to get something done for the public. So, yeah, I hope we can put a lot of emphasis on getting this done. And if you need any help getting a hold of the U.S. Senator's office, give me a holler and I would be more than help. I have the gentleman's phone number. Thank you.
That one has, this is new. The crossing at Woodland has, yes. Yeah, sorry, Scott.
Scott Mellon, 200 Kenwood Place. I appreciate our council person's concerns with the CSX. The only thing I'd like to bring up or point out is it's the combination of the squeaky wheel gets grease or the boy who cries wolf. I'm not sure what the rules for Federal Railroad are as far as storing their debris on their right of way. And if we complain about things that really aren't complainable, if you will, to mangle the language, that we lose credibility for when there is an actual issue, an honest to God safety issue that needs to be taken care of. So I don't know how we balance that. I don't know how we square that. I don't want us to be the town who cries wolf, because these railroads are difficult enough to deal with as it is. As Engineer Werner is sort of implying, he at one point had a relationship with the CSX roadmaster, and now it's whether or not he gets a return call. So I think we need to temper our desires with what's actually feasible with the federal railroads. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Any other public comments?
Well, I think that we've been waiting long enough. We've been patient long enough with the railroad. That Woodland crossing, they're just ignoring us. So why not be a squeaky wheel? I mean, I'm sure they have someone over them. You know, the public it's a safety issue, and we've been waiting a year. Unacceptable.
Any other public comments? I'll close public. Go ahead.
Tommy Kolovic, 1316 Ohio Street. Well, one recommendation I have, consult with the officials down in cities like Carmel and Fishers, Noblesville, Westfield, Zionsville, Avon, Brownsburg. I guarantee those people where all the rich people live, if they have those kind of issues, they don't exist there. They take good care of them. Find out how they do it. Thank you.
Any other public comment? All right, I'll close public comments. Any comments from the board? That's more. I'm looking at you. You see, I know.
I just am. I know that we've already said that we're going to, or we contacted the senator's office, right? And we had a relationship with them, or did we? I'm looking at you because I think you're the one who contacted them. How did that go? I mean, is that something you feel comfortable with? I'm not sure.
Since Mike Braun is no longer the editor, we have him on the joint camera. The senator's office that I contacted was Mike Braun's office. We had a couple of letters go back and forth, and then the final one was he was leaving office and he couldn't really do anything over the next 60 days. So that's where that went. So I'll be in contact with our new our senator representatives and see where we can go. So I'll get the information and get them off a letter requesting that they help us get CSX to fix these crossings and take care of these issues.
Would it help you in any way that the Board of Works drafts a letter, the city council, the mayor? Does that have any bearing on anything, do you think?
I mean, we can send a letter if you would like with for him to. Once you make the contact, probably the answer is yes, yeah, or a phone call, yeah, where it really works. I mean, that's how we used to have a good relationship. I'm just not sure what roles they're playing now, because I'm sure Braun probably took some of his staff with him to play roles in the new positions. So I'm just not sure who's taken over and things like that. Mayor and I were just kind of talking about that recently. Yeah.
Mayor said that
Yeah.
phone calls would be made.
Yes, yes. We have to call about some support for a grant that we're working. So maybe that's an additional item we can put on there. Yeah. But for today, what's the pleasure of the board? Do we want to see where we're at in a month, a week? Mr. Simmons, I know you have some strong opinions on these. Where would you like to be?
Can we have some feedback by our next meeting? That's 2 weeks.
We will try to make the phone call in between. Yeah. Or figure out what roles people are playing now. Who's playing the roles? Is that a motion, Mr. Simmons?
It is. I make a motion to refer it for 2 weeks. He'll come back with some feedback.
Second.
Call for the vote, Mr. Simmons.
Aye.
Miss Tisdale.
Aye.
Miss Smith.
Aye.
Miss Moore.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Thank you. Our next order of business is a request for signage. Walter Johns 102 Garrettson Ave. Can't even speak right now. Walter Johns 102 Garrettson Ave is requesting to place no littering signs down Franklin Street from Highway 12 down to the Michigan City Public Library on both north and south sides of the street. Mr. Johns?
He had actually just given me a call. He had a death in the family, so he wasn't able to make it today, he said. So he asked to push it until the next meeting.
Okay, so he wants us to table this until the next one, third.
Yeah, if we could.
Okay. What's the pleasure of the board?
I'd like to give him the benefit of doubt to hear what he has to say, but signage all the way down from 20 to the library.
It's a lot of signage. Yeah. Agreed. It's your fault. Do you want to say something? Okay. Do we want to table this? Okay. Okay.
Motion to table until our next meeting on the 3rd.
Okay. Okay. Fair enough. Do your second?
Second.
We'll call for the vote. Mr. Simmons?
Aye.
Miss Tisdale?
Aye.
Miss Smith?
Aye.
Miss Moore?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. All right. Next order of business is a road closure for a special event. Alicia Brown, Race for the Region, Extra Mile Fitness, is requesting to close 10th Street between Wabash Ave and Manhattan directly in front of the school to start and finish their 5K run walk on March 8th, 2025 from 8:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. How you doing?
Hi, I'm Todd Henner along with Race the Region. I
Great.
just couldn't make it tonight. Yes, we're just asking for a temporary partial closure of the road in front of the high school to set up our start and finish for a 5K run we're doing to benefit the school. So we work with Captain Jesse on the routes. We just want to make sure that we can control that traffic point because that's where we will have start and finish set up.
Excellent. Mr. Jesse, you're good with this? Okay. Everything's in order from our legal and COIs and all those things?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions of the board?
I have only because I'm not, I've never done one of these before, but I assume.
We'll
this
change
is-
that.
I
Have an opportunity in March.
assume this is a race, right?
Yes, ma'am.
How do you navigate the crossroads as people are running and traffic, and how does that, I know we're closing part of that up, but how is that navigated then around the?
We work with Captain Jesse on there are two traffic lights on that route that we'll have officers there to hold direct traffic. And then we have volunteers that will be at the crosswalks or the cross streets, which are all 4-way stops. So traffic will be stopping and starting So we can have just regular volunteers there to in security vests to kind of direct and hold traffic.
It's like a rolling kind of closure type thing.
Yeah.
Mr. Jesse, can you add some details to this?
Between the use of some officers and then also the EMA volunteers, I don't know how many there will be. We'll be able to take the bigger intersections, and plus with the route that was chosen, there's a lot of stop signs. So between the natural design of the stop signs and the roads, it'll help keep the runners safe as well. And the wider path with the bike lanes and the parking stalls along Washington and Pine on some of the parts of the route. So there should not be any issues in that aspect.
Thank you.
And yeah, and I'd like to mention Race the Region. We put on a series of 12 races throughout the year in various municipalities throughout Northwest Indiana and Valpo and Chesterton. So we have experience with keeping runners. That's our paramount task, is to keep the runners safe and make sure we have a safe environment.
Any other questions? Any other questions? I'll open for public comment. Thank you. Any public comment on this item? Any public comment? Anything online? All right, I'll close public comment. Any other questions from the board, or do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve.
Your second?
Support.
Call for the vote. Mr. Simmons?
Aye.
Ms. Tisdale?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Aye.
Ms. Moore?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Thanks for working with our police officer, Mr. Jesse, and thanks for putting this together for us. Thank you. All right. Our next order of business is a special event in road closure. The Michigan City Main Street Association is requesting the following: to host Shelf Ice Brew Fest on Saturday, February 22nd, 2025, to close 5th Street from Pine Street to East Michigan Boulevard, Spring Street from 5th Street to 6th Street, and Cedar Street from 5th Street to 6th Street, beginning on Tuesday, February 18th, 2025 at 8 a.m. to Tuesday, February 25th, 2025 at 12 p.m. Please tell us your name and give us the rundown.
Justin Post. I'm the president of the Michigan City Main Street Association and have been the chair of this event for, I believe, the past 8 years, if we don't count that 1 year. So the request is for now for 5th Street, Cedar and Spring. You just read. I would like to just read, this is from our board from the Michigan City Main Street Association. Thank you very much for the opportunity to address the concerns raised regarding Shelf Ice Brew Fest. We deeply value the role of the board in improving and managing events that shape the vitality of our community. As a volunteer-run organization, we take great pride in hosting an event that has become a hallmark of Michigan City's winter season. So that's the request that we're making, and I know there were concerns, and I'd be happy to answer any questions and tell you where we're at with the planning.
Justin, I have a question.
Yes.
The length of closure.
Yes.
Does it have to be a full week? I mean, that's a long time to keep I get that it's not maybe a main road, but it is a road, and that's really one of my concerns this time, is just like keeping it closed for so long. What's the reason? Is there a thought behind that?
The reasoning was, per our conversation, yours and my conversation, Skylar, since that wasn't a very high traffic road, I kind of just made a big ask.
Okay.
So that we had enough time and everything would be, we'd be able to accomplish everything. What I do need is Wednesday, Thursday, Friday for tent setup. Cleanup can be done much more quickly, but if they set up two tents a day, since we don't know the weather in advance, that's what they've been doing. They set up we have the 40 by 40 heated tents that we use for art vendors and music. Those were set up on the redevelopment commission lots in previous years, so no street closure had to be done for those. But now that we have everything on the street, they would do 2 on Wednesday, 2 on Thursday, 2 on Friday to be ready for Saturday. And then they would be tearing down Saturday evening and have everything torn down. The construction of the tents is really complicated in cold temperatures. We do this event outside. It makes it far more expensive and difficult than it has to be, but it's because we're trying to celebrate the Michigan City winter and it's been a pain.
So you were saying that you would have the tents down Saturday?
They package them all up, whether they can actually truck all the materials back. But then what we've done in the past when we did it on Franklin Street was put the materials in parking spaces, or we had the use of the RDC lots. So I think that we would take up parking spaces with those concrete Jersey barrier blocks that they use to anchor the tents down.
Okay.
And then all the structural materials and the canvases would be put on their truck and taken back on Saturday evening, unless something goes wrong. You know, that's
Okay.
Yeah.
So you don't necessarily need the whole closure. You just kind of, it was an arbitrary.
not necessarily arbitrary. I was going to give A's is the company that does the tent rentals.
I didn't
I was
know
going to
that.
give them as much time as I could. So if we wanted to amend that, that's fine. I would still ask that we have Wednesday, Thursday, Friday for them to set up the tents. We could make it actually, if we scheduled the tent construction properly, we don't have to have the street closed because the 10 by 20 or the 20 by 40 tents just take up parking spaces. They don't actually take up a lane of that road since it's such a wide road and it has angled parking there.
And say that was
I'll open up for board.
my question. How are you
Street.
planning on setting up? You just highlighted what streets you want to close, but like where are you planning on setting up? Where are you planning on having? Yeah, is there a site plan?
I have a preliminary site plan. It's going to take us hours of work after that with our engineer, Ryan Laughlin, who's the secretary of our board. He's always done that plan. I have a very rudimentary layout compared to what we usually use. And I can,
Yes, please.
so as you can see here, the waiting area, that's fenced, but not actually covered. So that's not an object that's in the way of emergency vehicles or any traffic, actually. And like I said, I haven't discussed this with the entire group. That Franklin Street layout was 10 years of work to get everything just right, exactly 1 foot here, 1 foot there. So this is the first time on this site we'd be doing it. Everything would be, as you see, in the roads. There's plenty of clearance for emergency vehicles to go all the way through the event in this layout. What we do at Pine Street and East Michigan Boulevard, there would be openings in the fence with giving us the ability to open that quickly and let emergency vehicles in, which has actually happened once when on Pine Street on the old layout. And it was very easy for us to open that up. The ambulance came in and came right back out. This is a wider street, so it's easier for them to get emergency vehicles through.
Justin, what are the red things?
The food vendors.
Oh, gotcha.
Yep.
Sorry, I'm just labeling things.
And since you brought up that this is your first year in this site plan,
Mhm.
why are you waiting until right now to come in front of the board? This is 30 days before the event.
That's right. We have been doing this event for a long time, so we have all the requisite skills and abilities to do the event if we get approval here tonight. While we knew that there were talks with vendors last year after the event, we were not informed by anyone directly about not being able to do it on Franklin. So when I made a request for the December 11th meeting of the Board of Works, that was knowing that I might get feedback from this board. No, we want you to do it somewhere else. We had multiple meetings as a board, including with our council liaison, Greg Coulter. And we decided as a group that we were going to still ask for Franklin Street because it's where we've done it for 10 years. And we thought that that's where we should keep doing it. So as I was informed after that request that we were not allowed to do it on Franklin Street and we wouldn't be able to ask for that, we tried again and the holidays got in the way and I couldn't get the insurance certificate for that one.
Hmm.
It took 2 weeks to get this insurance certificate too. It's, yeah. So that's where we're at this point. That doesn't mean that planning hasn't already been going on. The layout is just one of many different features of the event that we have to get going. So we have vendors, we have rentals lined up, we have things all waiting for us to get this approval so that we can move really quick this month.
Listen to Still, are you?
Well, I just appreciate the change of locations personally.
Miss Smith, you had a question?
What about an EMA plan? Is there an emergency management plan? We got the layout. Have you spoke to fire marshal?
I have a message to the fire marshal. I did talk to him months ago about this. Now, he comes out the day of. We talk a lot before then. I have a long list of things that I need to comply with for the event, including because we do use open fire. So I need that burn permit. Last year, I handed him a check the day of and he gave me the permit. He went through with the Homeland Security.
I was gonna say Homeland Security comes out too. They
Yeah.
check for like extinguishers and tents, etc.
Yeah, they're out there at about 8 a.m. and make sure that we have everything in order for opening the gates at 12.
And that doesn't happen until day of?
Yeah, the inspection happens.
Okay.
That's because that's when.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's when everything's finally all set up. And then emergency management plan. We've always gone with 3 police officers and EMA volunteers there the night before and the day of. The emergency management plan, basically they look this over and they say we can get an emergency vehicle in, and that's all I've ever had to do previously, besides the fire marshal going through and making sure everything's lined up.
Have you spoken to all of our city departments to see how closing Fifth Street would impact them?
No, and I wasn't aware that I should have done that before I went before this board.
Yeah.
I mean, this is really where we suggested that they do it. So yeah, I don't know if that.
Yeah, I just,
I understand that, but with 30 days before the event,
Yeah.
we don't have time to really ask questions, refer this to other departments, get their impact and feedback, which is frustrating because it will make us look like the bad guys if we have any questions.
I have in previous years, about a month in advance is as quickly as I get a response from the department heads.
I know these are side streets. Captain Jesse, do you have any comments on the closure of the streets?
Long is concern. Obviously, I don't know as far as the street department of plowing.
Hold on real quick. Why don't you wait until you get to the microphone? It'll make it easier. Thanks.
With the plowing, I'm not too sure on that one. The week long is possibly a concern. I know that there's no residences or anything in that block, but the Fifth Street and then also another block of Pine and Spring, I think, was on the request. I don't know all those. I mean, if that's going to be any issues, I mean, we've driven around some, road construction and stuff like that as far as the police department, but as far as the plowing routes and all that stuff, I'm not too sure. But again, shutting it down for a week right off the boulevard might cause some issues, and just trying to think of it as far as how it's blocked, as far as to make sure cars don't either drive through that or hit whatever barricades would be my concern, and the length of the
Closure.
week. Yeah.
Thank you for your comments.
You got it down.
Miss Officer Jesse, maybe just stay right here just in case. Miss Smith, you had some comments
Well,
or questions?
previous, you said 10 years you guys have had this now. So
Should be the 10th event.
how long has setup taken previously?
It gets more complicated every year because we try to do extra things every year because we know how to do this. So last year we added a new 40 by 40 tent on the South RDC lot there at Franklin and 7th. So they set up those 2 tents on Wednesday, then the 2 7th Street tents on Thursday, then the Franklin Street tents on Friday. So setup, that's not the complete setup, but the tents take the longest time. It's the most expensive, most labor intensive part of it.
Okay, so what about cleanup, trash, stuff like that?
Yeah, I would.
I mean, I think I've never been to shelf ice. You know, so I can't say. But feedback that I've gotten before, or that I know I've heard from the businesses downtown, was the time it took for it to be cleaned up after the fact, and the different stuff that was left around for days. So for me, when I hear that it's a 1-day event for roughly 5 hours, 12 to 5 is what your paperwork says, and that you need a week to set up, plus a couple of days afterwards or whatever to find that's where everything else sounds great to me, but my conflict is I think our special events department put on bigger events with less setup time or with less need. And so I'm just trying to figure out why it would take 3 days to set up tents. I mean, I feel like Thursday might even make sense to Monday, but Tuesday, Wednesdays just seems a bit excessive, especially for the entire street to be closed down. So what about trash? And is this on your form? You have that this is a festival, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And so there's like a $100 a day fee for a festival. Have you guys paid fees before?
We are a nonprofit.
You're nonprofit, but you want to close the street down for a week for a party. Okay.
Yes.
That was it.
But I don't think your last question about refuse was addressed.
It wasn't. Yes, so we have a new refuse plan. Last year, so here's the thing. So we're not aware of this ahead of time, but last year more of our vendors from the breweries brought packaged beverages because it's so cold that their jockey boxes, the faucets, they run out of kegs, were freezing the previous year. So we weren't aware that we'd have that much refuse. There really shouldn't be much refuse at all. Before, in the past, it was only from the food trucks, just the little paper containers that you get a hot dog in. So we had a lot more, but we did have a plan with refuse to pick that up. But of course, they weren't going to have anybody pick it up on Sunday. So Saturday night, it was there. We placed it on the street where they told us to place it, and it wasn't picked up until Monday. And I realized that that's not ideal. There was no place that I could personally put it that weekend. This year, though, we have talked about it, and we will be getting a roll-off container from the same company that we're renting the portable toilets from. So we'll have all the trash in a dumpster. It will be out of the way. There won't be any cleanup after that Sunday. We'll have everything in there.
I like that.
And then if I could just address also the week street closing. So our previous requests have always been Thursday so that they could set up the 7th Street. So that's when 7th Street is closed from Franklin to Washington and Franklin to Pine. That was just Thursday. And then Friday was Franklin from 8 a.m. until the next day when the event ends, about an hour after that. But 6, we open the street back up. So there was never a closure for a week. Since this road is rarely used, and per my conversation with Skylar, I thought that I could ask for a week and nobody would care. But we don't need it. If you guys want to make an amendment, we can change that. I really would like to do Wednesday, and then we could open it back up at noon on Monday, so we can make sure that our rental companies, everybody has time on Monday morning to come in and remove everything. On Saturday night, after the event, it is highly likely that everything will be towards the parking spots, everything will be clear, the fence will be removed, and the street will be open again on Saturday night. So we can do that however you would like.
You said that you really needed the Wednesday though. Was
I don't really like it. If you tell me no, then we'll have to make do. If that means that I have to pay more for the tent company for overtime and stuff, then I do. We do this event for the city. It's all volunteer. Just to bring in people. 35 to 40% of our customers are from outside of LaPorte County. Brings in a lot of beer tourism people.
Any other questions of Justin?
Yes. What tents did you say are set up on that first day, the Wednesday?
It can be since this is all on one road, we've always done on the RDC grassy lots, so we don't have to close the road for that day.
Mm-hmm.
Now this can be, if you look at the layout, we can set this up so that we do the beverage tents first, and then the street can remain open, and both lanes of traffic can be open when we're just taking out parking spaces
That
on
was-
Fifth Street.
That was my thought. If we maybe close parking spaces on Wednesday so they can set
But the
times up.
road would have to be, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
The road would have to be closed for setup because they have their people in the street and forklifts.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
the only thing.
Yeah, this one's a little bit different where we had the option to be on the RDC lots to set up. So you got half the tents set up without even having to close lots. It's a little bit different here. Yeah.
To me, from a safety component, I think it would make sense just to keep it closed.
Yeah. Just trying to find a compromise here.
Yeah, you don't want mingling forklifts and people with cars passing through. That would not be good. So, and large. No, these are structural. They have to be structural. They have to have a wind load. It's always been required. I think the other Board of Works actually, when we started doing that, they made sure they were structural. So they're very different than normal tents. These can take a wind of, I don't know, 35 miles an hour, 50 miles an hour, something like that. Supposedly. Any other questions of Mr. Post?
You know, I do.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I don't want to jinx it, but what if we have a huge snow event? I mean, how does that play in realistically? I know, I said, I don't want to jinx it, but it's a possibility.
That's the nature of an event like this. Obviously, should we get approval today, the first thing that I'm gonna do tomorrow is contact all the department heads and see that this plow before we start. But if on Thursday evening we have an insane snowstorm and these tents are covered and
they're also rated to hold snow as well.
they're rated.
Yeah,
We're not worried about the safety of the tents in the snow or the high winds, but then getting anybody in there after the blizzard on Friday night isn't going to.
Yeah.
So we've gone out and salted all the roads, shoveled ourselves, brought in snow blowers, like we've removed the snow. Ourselves there, but that's not going to happen though. It's going to be 70 like it was the first year.
Miss Moore.
This isn't a question.
Go ahead.
Can I make a comment?
Absolutely.
I have not done the 5K races, but I have been to this. And it is really an amazing thing that is put on by the city. I know that we've got to get all this sorted out. And it's been very cold when I've been there, and it's snowed, and everybody has a great time anyway. And I think that it's a lot of work, especially by volunteers. And I'm happy that we're getting it all sorted out. And I think it's a good thing you do.
Thank you.
Any other questions of Mr. Post before I open it up for public comments? Everyone get their comments out. I haven't really gotten there yet, Mr. Simmons. I was going to open up for some comments and then maybe a further discussion, if that would be okay. Any other comments from Mr. Post? Okay, I'll open up for public comment.
Yeah, first of all, this is Tommy Kolovic from 1316 Ohio Street. Now, the first thing I want to mention, this is where Bethany Baptist Bible Church is at. Reverend Albert Isbell's congregation. He's a pillar of this community. Do not close off the entrance to Bethany Bible Baptist Church for a week. Why not just ask to set your tents up on all the gray field site that the Redevelopment Commission owns? They don't care if that gets cleaned up. It's not going to look any more gaudy or ostentatious. It already does. I think by now that all of Michigan City realizes that nothing's going to be going up there anytime soon. So they can probably have that for years to come. It's just like the Queen's Fest. They finally did away with the Queen's Fest. Maybe they should not have this outdoors, but maybe, they do have the option of renting out the Stardust Event Center at Blue Chip Casino for this. And I thought we were with Baker Tilly about the fees. They're only getting $100 a day. We're only going to get $700 out of this. I say this is a nonprofit, so they're not going to pay anything at all. I know in Chicago, what are they charging? I'm sure they get more than $700 for NASCAR to set up for the Chicagoland Grand Prix. I just think that this really ought to be another event that's kind of maybe phased out and done away with, or they have it indoors somewhere. Thank you.
Mayor.
Good afternoon. So, I'm in favor of the location. Let me step back though, about Franklin Street. Um, I know I spoke to, Councilman Coulter and we talked about comments that were made previously about wanting Franklin because they just want Franklin and that I met with business owners about this and I hadn't. So what did occur last year was after the event, you had a lot of business owners that came here angry, that vented and caught me out in the vestibule to vent about why they were upset. A couple of things that happened, and I go to the event every year, by the way. Not a beer drinker, but I like to see people down there, and I volunteered previously. But what they were upset about, and I noticed too, and this won't happen because it'll be moved, is that the streets were blocked still, and tents were up in the way of traffic on Monday. Also, the trash, we got an answer for the trash, which is a good thing. I love the roll off. That's good. But what happened is we're a two-way street now with double lines. If you put any tents on that road, it's a safety traffic hazard. There's no way to have tents on the road or any closure on Franklin Street with it being a two-way street. We just got that open. It's a benefit for the businesses. They, are again, have a lot of issues with the street being closed for extended periods of time. And it was well into Monday last year. So that was the issue that really was the crux of, hey, we need to move this somewhere else that's viable. We talked about Fetters Alley. We talked about Washington Park, in the main area. We just were throwing out ideas because I didn't know they were going to have it, quite frankly, because nothing had came before the board. It came to the board. So everybody was asking about it. I said, well, I don't know. I mean, they may or may not. It just depends. So I think this location is good. The church entrance, I don't know if that's impacted at all.
There's actually there's two entrances to that.
Okay, so if they can get to their entrance, I think that's fine. But it's a standing event. All the departments have dealt with shelf ice for the last however many years. I don't think that's an issue. It's every year they do it. With the roll off, that alleviates a whole lot. That street is so wide that the setup, I believe it should be blocked off though. I don't know if are we blocking it from the boulevard to the end to Pine Street? My question is, do we need to actually block it that far the first day? Can we what's the crossroad by which street is that?
Cedar.
Is there a way maybe for the first day, Wednesday, for Cedar to be closed at Cedar to Pine, and then for the event, then on Friday, kind of inch your way out? So I don't know if that's an option. Do we really need the full boulevard to Pine all of those days, or can we do Cedar and then go to the boulevard? I don't know if that's something that can be done, but I think that's viable versus the whole thing the whole time. If tents are coming in each day, you really don't need all the way to the boulevard because you still have the business park right there, and maybe Cedar is the place where you start at first, and then on Friday you do the full thing. So those are my only comments. I think that long as all the paperwork is in order and they have a trash plan. The trash was the biggest thing. Myself and Councilman Don, that might have been 2 years ago.
It was the biggest complaint, right?
Right. It was always the trash in the church and all of that. So we just want to make sure also the location where the roll-off is. We don't want it on the side closest to the church. We want it on the side closest to Pine. So, those things are important to make sure we have those. But I think, and I don't know if this is something that you could do, that you approve it pending you receive all the things that you need by a certain date, so that we make sure that, the site plan is completed, that where the trash is gonna go, all those things. But I really don't see it being a traffic issue. I go that way because nobody goes that way. There really isn't any traffic that goes down those streets at all. That's why I made that recommendation to you that that will probably be the widest, least used, in the whole city.
No one gets porta potties in front of their business. It's
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
it makes
so that would be my thing. I think it would be fine. Monday by noon. And my last question is, where are the proceeds? Because this thing sells out every year. What are you going to donate money to, and what are we going to do? Because if we're going to do this as a benefit for the city, what are we going to do with some of that money? Because I believe that there should be some public benefit, piece of art, something that happens from it if we're going to participate as a partner. So that would be my only question. But other than that, I mean, I feel like this is a good event that we should move forward with it.
Any other public comment? Any other public comments?
Scott Mellon, 200 Kenwood Place. Sadly, I've not attended either, but I'm fully in support of this. Sometimes you can't have all the answers. This is a very lightly traveled street. Even if it was closed for a week, I think we could make do. The garbage was the big issue, and the street, Franklin, being closed, I believe all the way until Sunday or Monday morning, was the complaint of the business owners. So certainly for this year, I think we should just roll the dice, let it go. Let's let it happen. My question is, I know we don't want them on Franklin Street, but is the event so large it doesn't fit on the 7th, on our space that the Civic Plaza area is just too big for our green space in 7th Street?
It probably used to 10 years ago, but now it's grown significantly.
No, that's a shame. It wouldn't fit there. But this is a great central location. The mayor is in support. I think the people are in support. I think you're in support. And sometimes we just can't have all the answers. Let's not let perfect get in the way of good enough. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any other public comments? Mr. Councilman.
Yeah, the city councilman, Don Perbolinski. My comment is, not against shelf ice. I've been there a number of times myself, had a great time. Brings in a lot of people. What my concern is, and maybe we don't have a plan right now, but I think with many of the city events, the way we have to start thinking as far as blocking off streets, blocking off sidewalks, things of that nature, where we're going to have a large group of people concentrated, and it was a very sad situation, but just like happened down in New Orleans on New Year's Eve, you get that many people in one spot. If you're going to block off a street, you better have concrete barricades there, or those big orange plastic barricades, water-filled barricades. I'm just looking out for the public safety.
No, it is unfortunately a situation in our world that we live in nowadays. I agree.
Right.
I agree. Any other public comments? I'll close public comments. Any comments from the board? Let's have Justin come back up. Mayor asked a few questions. I want to get her questions answered. And Ms. Moore looks like she's got some questions too. Absolutely. Would you like to, Ms. Moore? Justin, a couple of questions that Mayor asked. I got a couple of comments too. Can you talk about what you do with the money from these events? What does Main Street do with it for public knowledge too?
Yeah, number of different initiatives that Main Street's done over the years, a lot, in fact. In the last year or so, it's been a lot less. We've been a lot less active. We have plans in the future to actually work with other groups in town to use these funds for, basically, we want to spend the money that we've gotten over the last few years for shelf ice. We have a number of grants. In the past, part of the Main Street process, or the Main Street plan, one of the pillars is design. So in the past, we've paid for putting flowers into the flower boxes there, the concrete boxes. We've distributed flower pots to individual businesses, upkeep of our normal association. I could get you a list of things that we've done over the years. Right now, it's not as much as you would think, actually. Everything goes up every year, from insurance to tent rentals to even the contractor that's selling the tickets for us and inviting the vendors.
Sure.
They're all going up. Yes, and like I said, in the future, we actually plan on doing more grants, providing more funds for especially the design part of the Uptown Arts District.
Thank you. Ms. Moore, did you have any other comments? Ms. Tisdale. Go ahead.
First of all, I want to say I don't think anybody up here is against the Shelf Ice Brew Fest. I need to make that very clear. Again, it is a huge event. It is immensely popular. I don't attend. I don't drink. I have a medical condition. I can't be in the cold. But it's beloved. I'm glad you guys have moved the location, because I did meet with business owners last year and there were a lot of complaints that will be negated with this new site plan. I'm just really frustrated by the fact that it was only brought to us now, when we've known, and if Greg has attended your meetings, you've known there were issues. There was a possibility it would be moved. So can just say I personally, as a board member, would have appreciated a little bit more heads up. Maybe just loop us in the future when you have plans, because again, this keeps getting bigger and better every single year. We are going to have to change them. We are going to have to work together as a city to help make it happen for you guys and for the city as well. So again, I just want to reiterate that we are not against, I know I personally at least, am not against the Shelf Brew Fest. It's beloved.
Ms. Smith, would you like to make a comment?
No, I concur with Candace. Definitely not against this event at all. I would ask though, if we could get a final site plan. And on the one you gave us today, which I know is tentative, it's just something you had today. It looks like the beverage tents are on the side of the church. Am I reading that wrong?
That is on the church side, yes.
That if we could somehow have a plan where the alcohol.
And they be flipped.
Like on the other side, I know that, like I said, I know this was your tentative kind of, but if we could get a final plan, I would definitely like to not see that.
So I'm just asking, so you don't want the alcohol close to the church?
I just, can it be on the other side of the, you have them here, can it just be?
Yeah, it may be able to, but if I'm moving stuff around, is the music okay over by the church? Food, is there like grease?
Anywhere.
I just don't know what the consideration is.
Oh, I got you, but music can be heard anywhere. The liquor can be easily moved.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, just across the street. Just
where your blue lines are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Just.
I think a final site plan was definitely what we would need.
Yeah.
So if we do grant approval today, Justin, we really need to get a final site plan. I think that needs to go to Officer Jesse. I think it needs to go to our fire department for sure. Jeff Breeder, fire marshal, the rounds.
Yeah.
Mr. Warner, I think, should take a look at that as well for the closure. Make sure Sean gets it. Make sure all the people get it. We've got some new people in faces now.
I think if you get it to Isabel, obviously she can disseminate it to everyone. The other thing is, how quickly could we get this site plan?
I have a meeting scheduled for Thursday. Should we get approval? A meeting scheduled for Thursday, and we will work on it then. In the past, we'll spend hours on the site plan. Things can move up until the morning of the event, but we'll make sure it's nothing significant that would, you know.
Yeah, I think if the fire marshal walks in and says you need 16 feet here and you have to move,
Yeah.
then that's his call,
Yeah,
in
we
my
can
opinion.
enforce, or Indian excise.
Yeah. And
Somebody
so,
says.
and then will you also on that site plan? I know you didn't put it on this. We just show us what being fenced in, just so we have an eye, so they know if they need to get EMA.
My
And
question wasn't answered.
Oh,
When,
so sorry.
when can we get that site plan? And I think we need an
Yeah.
emergency plan as well with that.
How do I do that? That's all I need to know.
I think your emergency plan just needs to show where your entrances and exits are, so that people identify them.
On the layouts that we always have
Well,
done.
I know Terry Greetham puts together emergency plans with contacts, and there's a whole, if this happens and this happens, I'm sure he could share
Okay.
what should be in an emergency
that what I
plan should be
be doing?
filed with the city as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Terry would probably share that with you of who his people are. Justin, you have a meeting Thursday. If approval is granted.
So that's what I meant as soon as Friday morning.
That's what I was
can
getting
send it
at.
to you,
Friday.
but that wouldn't be the final layout yet, because then we have to go through this process of, oh, well, that's not gonna work because the beer's by the church, like that sort of thing. So yes, that's Friday morning, I can have a much more detailed layout for you, including entrances and exits for emergency vehicles.
Okay. Alrighty. I like this location. I like that no toilets are in front of people's place of business for days or a couple days. I like the dumpster. That's A plus. I think it works. Yeah, those are some of my comments.
I'm sorry, I have a list of, I have 7 letters here, testimonials from other public businesses in Michigan City too. If I could, I just want to provide it for the record.
Sure, of course. Will you tell us what the businesses are?
Sure. We have Fluid Coffee Roasters, the Bridge Inn, 4411 Inn and Suites, a local artist, Jesse Sexton, who works at the Lebesnick Center, Private Drive, Burnham Brewing, and Leeds. And I can anecdotally, I can say that I know that Fiddlehead and Shoreline do really well on that day. They enjoy it as well.
Sure, absolutely. Any other questions of Mr. Post from this board? Mayor, I'm so sorry. I didn't see you come up here.
I forgot
Yeah,
one thing.
I'm sorry.
Can we find out from Pastor Isabel the times of his service? We probably should know that. Just in case, so that at least there should be a notification to him for their church service in case they want to do something different, or because I don't know. I didn't, so probably should have that conversation with him. And he's cooperative. It's, he's gonna be fine, but we probably should at least do that and give a courtesy to him. And talk to him as well. But what I do recommend for public, even if you get it beforehand, I think at your next Board of Works, even if you approve it today, that you make sure you have to finalize everything for the record. And that way you have the site plan and everything. Even if you turn it into them, they'll just submit it for public record so that everybody has it that way. And that gives still time afterwards. But I don't know who makes the notification to Pastor Isabel.
Do you want to do that, Isabel? I don't want
Yeah,
to put
I
you
can-
on the spot.
I can find out his information and send him a letter.
Okay. I was gonna say I could call as well if or between Mayor and me, we could call. I could do that. Yeah, if you can get the information. Any other questions of Mr. Post? We've kept him up here quite a while. I had an in-depth discussion about this. You got another question? Okay, I was like, Mr. Simmons, come on. Any other comments from the board? All right. My final comment is that I think we have would a Thursday 8 a.m. to Monday 12 p.m. work?
Yes, and I can almost guarantee that we will have that open on Sunday for
Just
services.
I'm just in case.
Oh, yeah.
That's my comment, or my I think we should include in our motion that we. What motion do we want to make here? What's the motion? Help me with some words. I'll make the motion that we approve Shelf Ice Brew Fest for 2025 on February 22nd, contingent upon receiving a final site plan on Friday. That the event be held Thursday 8 a.m. to 12. I'm sorry, to Monday at 12 p.m. is the road closure, and that you make sure that we notify all the boards or all the people that need to get notified.
Emergency plan.
And the emergency plan. I'm sorry.
You did say final site plan.
Finals, a site.
Okay.
Yeah, get us a site plan.
Can't guarantee.
No, I understand, but we're gonna call it the site plan that we need. Yeah.
Can we also maybe just conditionally put it on our pending so that
Cool with
Mr.
that.
Post can come back as well in case we have any concerns or questions?
To be finalized at our next Board of Works meeting.
To be finalized at our next Board of Works meeting?
Fine with that.
So let me rephase the motion. I'll remake the motion. If that's okay. I'll amend my motion. My motion is that we approve the Shelf Ice Brew Fest for the 2025 season for February the 22nd, 2025, pending final approval at our next Board of Works meeting and the receipt of a site plan, an emergency management plan, notification of the church, and that the closure is Thursday, 8 a.m. to Monday at 12 p.m. And that everyone gets notified during that time frame. Is that an appropriate motion? Okay. That's my motion.
Support.
I'll call for the vote. Mr. Simmons.
Aye.
Ms. Tisdale. Ms. Smith.
Aye.
Ms. Moore.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Justin, thank you for being here today and the presentation.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for all the public comments. Thank you. All right. On to our last, Mr. Jesse. Thank you for, I'm sorry you had to stand there the whole time. Well, it's okay. Yeah, you're not outside. It's okay. I feel bad. Okay, our next order of business is a temporary construction easement. Approval of amended temporary construction easement between the City of Michigan City and the County of LaPorte, Indiana for a project to reconstruct and replace Bridge 512 along Michigan Boulevard. Give me a tell what. Okay, correct me if I'm wrong, okay?
I will.
We approved this previously and actually come to find out we actually had the wrong dates in there. This is a NERC project, and so the letting dates and the construction dates do change from time to time. And I do believe they had changed since the first time we wrote the easement to the time when we approved the easement. So now we have the appropriate dates in there, and we really need to just reapprove the easement with the appropriate construction times.
Correct. So county originally told us they needed from approximately April 1st of 2025 through 2026. Their letting time has changed. So now they need the dates of September 1st, 2027 through December 1st of 2028. So they originally thought the project was going to start sooner, but it's not now. So they need their temporary construction easement to be pushed out 27 through 28.
That's it.
So we would just want the board to approve the amended version with the new dates.
Yeah. Any questions on that? Any public comment on this?
Tim Warner, city engineer. I just want to identify with everybody what County Bridge 512 is. It's the Michigan Boulevard Bridge over Trail Creek, just east of Johnson Road.
Yeah, how many numbers? That's great.
Any other comments? Any other public comments?
Yes, Tommy Kolavic, 1316 Ohio Street. What we're basically talking about, like I said the last time, this is the old Pulaski Quick Stop property. I remember the city acquired that back in 2004 under Mayor Mears administration. The whole idea that was become a public access site for Trail Creek. And this is just another property that we acquired during his time in office that we haven't done nothing with. So Mayor Angie, you were talking about getting the prison. We need to come up with a site plan for some of these other city-owned properties that the city owns. It's her duty to, she's the authority over all the city-owned properties. So, let's get cracking on all that. Thank you.
Any other public comments? Anything online? Anything online? Any other public comments? Okay, I'm going to close public comments. Any other comments from the board, or do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve.
Or a second?
Support.
Call for the vote. Mr. Simmons?
Aye.
Ms. Tisdale?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Aye.
Ms. Moore?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. All right. Next order of business is a payroll claims docket for January 10th, 2025. Do we hear a motion?
Motion to approve.
Support.
Call for the vote. Mr. Simmons?
Aye.
Ms. Tisdale?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Aye.
Ms. Moore?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Next order of business is our claims docket. This is the claims for January 21st, 2024. Do I hear a motion on this one as well?
Motion to approve.
Support.
Call for the vote. Mr. Simmons?
Aye.
Ms. Tisdale?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Aye.
Ms. Moore?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. We have one unfinished business on our pending items, and this is a personnel. The Human Resources Department is requesting the approval of job description for the intern arborist apprentice in the Forestry Department. This was tabled from our January 6, 2025 meeting. Ms. LePage, do you have any
I
information?
do. I spoke with Miss George Clark today. She does not have the final version ready for the board yet, but asked the board to continue tabling this to the next meeting, and she would have it at that time.
Okay, excellent. Thank you for that update. Go ahead.
Motion to table until the next meeting.
Second.
Call for the vote. Mr. Simmons?
Aye.
Ms. Tisdale?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Aye.
Ms. Moore?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Our last order of business is public comment. I'll open up for public comment. Do I hear any public comments?
Yeah, Tommy Kolavic, 1316 Ohio Street. Getting back to Mr. John's request for the no littering signs, I think y'all just need to deny that. That shouldn't have got on the agenda. You can put all kinds of no littering signs up if you want. They're still going to litter. If we're going to put the no littering signs, let's put no soliciting signs or no marijuana smoking or no streaking or maybe no graffiti. And we got the no dumping signs up on Hitchcock over on at the Central Services Yards, no dumping. How's that worked out so far? So we're just going to spend a bunch of money having signs that in about 10 years are all going to get roached out. So I think you just need to 5-0 no. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any other public comments?
Got Melon to our Kendall Place. I think we should have no streaking signs. I think that we might get some PR out of that.
Don't encourage him, Scott.
Come on, that's the funniest thing I've heard all year. Thank you, Tommy. But I'm going to second his actual thing about the no littering signs. I was here primarily to speak against that. I'm fairly anti-sign. Signs are just visual pollution in their own way. The people who litter aren't going to pay attention to a sign. And most people don't litter, so they don't need a sign to be told that. I will bring something to the board's attention. It's kind of minor. It's kind of funny, but it's something I've never seen before. That is some of the new striping we've had done on our new paving this year has been scraped up by our snow plows, and we have yellow debris along the side of the road, particularly on Tilden. Now, I've never seen this before because snow plows have been part of my entire life. I've lived in this region. I've never seen this happen before. So I'm most specifically familiar with the stretch of Tilden between Cool Spring and, say, the railroad tracks, the CSX tracks, where it was very noticeable a week ago. You know, I know we didn't recess the thermo tape. Reith Riley did that section. It was perfectly done. It was really nice. And I just don't understand why the paint got scraped up. This tape center lines exist all over this region without getting scraped up by snowplows. So I guess my question is, to put it at the board's attention, do we have any, I can't think of the right word. Can we go back to Reith Riley and say, hey, this didn't last, redo it? And apparently this has happened in some of the other new pavements that were done this season as well. I just wanted to bring the board's attention. It's kind of interesting though to see all this yellow flake on the side and go, oh, what is that? Oh, that's the center line.
It was very weird.
Okay.
Look, and I remember that.
Thank you.
I don't know if that's a first. It was a very it's very strange to see the paint like flake like that. Yeah.
It's on Barker right now too.
No.
Ernie Hallahan.
Ernie.
I want to touch on what he spoke about littering. I brought this up at the last council meeting. My wife and I were riding around and she said it just makes her sick to her stomach to see all the litter around town. People just throw stuff right out the windows. They've even thrown couches out by the golf course out there on Warnke Road. The mayor had them pick it up. Then there was a baby carriage out there. Just people are littering everywhere. I took my great-grandson to school because he was late the other day. There's a big old full black bag of garbage right in the southbound lane in front of the school. People were having to drive around it. It's sad the way people are littering and dumping anymore around town.
Any other public comments?
Yeah, that's an attitude. Culture change.
Councilman.
Yeah, Councilman Don Perbolinski, and just to reiterate and add on to the yellow striping, Tilden Ave, that's bad. But if you go to Harrison Street from Tilden all the way over to Wabash, and that was just restriped because it was blacktopped, I don't know when, July, somewhere in there. Yeah. So they just got the striping down in August, September. And we've had the snow plows out 4 times maybe, you know, and these stripes are gone. You got that there. You got it on Risky Ave from Cool Spring down to Greenwood. And like the city engineer alluded to, there's many other spots around Michigan City. My point is, if Reith Riley's going to do this, there's got to be some type of warranty, at least for a year. And if we're not going to go that route, then, and this is more expensive, is when you grind down the blacktop and you put the striping down below the top of the blacktop so that it doesn't get scraped up. Maybe we just have to back off a little bit of the amount of striping we do and go that route from here on out. Because I'm sure that'll last years. That'll last years longer versus 3 months longer. So something to think about when the contract comes up next year for blacktopping and striping. Yeah, because I mean, I guess the striping is put down for a safety reason, right? Double stripe means no passing. And now that the striping is completely gone, so what does that tell you at that particular spot? It's okay to pass, or is this unsafe now? I don't know. Just something to think about. Thank you.
Any other public comments? Anything online? Anything online? Going once, going twice? All right. I'll close public comments. Any board comments?
Motion to adjourn.
It's a nice comment. Yeah. All right. We're adjourned.